Hey guys, what's up? This video is a serious video. It's a serious topic. And the topic is about suicide. Now, first off, I'm not making this video because I'm suicidal or I'm depressed. I'm not suicidal. I'm not depressed. I'm totally fine. I'm making this video to help other people who may be feeling this way. Now, I didn't want to just make this video off the cuff, just off the top of my head. So I'm going to read some stuff about it. And, I'll add my own comments too. Now, like I said, this is a sensitive topic. So, if you don't want to listen to this type of stuff or you think it could trigger you, then just don't watch the video. But like I said, I'm making this video to help people. But like I said, it's a difficult, sensitive topic. Okay, now this is from verywellmind.com. And it's why do people die by suicide? Now, I'm going to read this warning. Information in this article may be triggering to some. If you're having suicidal thoughts, contact the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 988 for support and assistance from a trained counselor. If you or a loved one are in immediate danger, call 911. It can be difficult to imagine what leads someone to die by suicide. There may have been no clear warning signs of their suicidal thoughts, and if the person was a friend or family member, you may wonder what clues you might have missed. If you've ever wondered why do people die by suicide, it's important to know that oftentimes many factors combine to lead a person to the decision to take their own life. Here are several to consider. Mental illness. The most common mental health condition behind a person's decision to die by suicide is severe depression. Depression can make people feel high levels of emotional pain and loss of hope, making them unable to see any other way to find relief than ending their own life. I remember when I was in university, I was taking a psychology course, and the professor said that depression was like the common cold, that everybody can catch it. And I think that's true because anybody can start thinking negatively. Okay, back to this article. An analysis of 65 studies found that 31% of people with major depressive disorder have attempted suicide at some point. Other mental illnesses that can increase the risk of suicide include anxiety disorders, bipolar disorder, borderline personality disorder, eating disorders, schizophrenia, traumatic stress. People who have had a traumatic experience such as childhood sexual abuse, rape, physical abuse, or war trauma are at a greater risk for suicide, even many years after the trauma occurred. This risk is especially high for men who've gone through a traumatic life event. But suicide affects both men and women. Being diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, or enduring multiple trauma events raises the risk even further. This is partly because depression is common after trauma and among those with PTSD, causing feelings of helplessness and hopelessness that can lead to suicide. I know one thing that can cause depression or leads to depression. It's sitting around feeling sorry for yourself. Like, you have these thoughts going through your head like, poor me, like this happens to me, blah, blah, blah. So try not to do that. Try not to sit around and feel sorry for yourself. Try to think positive thoughts. Substance use and impulsivity. Drugs and alcohol can also influence someone who is feeling suicidal, making them more impulsive and thus more likely to act upon their urges than they would while sober. Substance-related job or relationship loss can also contribute to a person's decision to die by suicide. Rates of substance use disorder and alcohol use disorder are also higher among people with depression and other psychological disorders. Put these together and the risks increase. Loss or fear of loss. A person may decide to take their own life when facing a loss or the fear of a loss. These situations can include academic failure, being arrested or imprisoned, bullying, including cyberbullying, shaming, or humiliation, financial problems, end of a close friendship or romantic relationship, job loss, loss of acceptance from friends or family due to sexual orientation, and loss of social status. Hopelessness. Hopelessness, either in the short term or as a longer-lasting trait, has been found in many studies to contribute to suicidal ideation. And the higher the person's degree of hopelessness, the greater the lethality of their suicide attempt. When people have lost all hope and don't feel able to change this, it can overshadow all of the good things in their life, making suicide seem like a viable option. The person may be facing a social or physical challenge and see no way the situation can improve. While it might seem obvious to an outside observer that things will get better, people with depression may not be able to recognize this due to the pessimism and despair that go along with this illness. Chronic pain and illness. If a person has chronic pain or illness with no hope of a cure or reprieve from suffering, suicide may seem like a way to regain dignity or control of their life. In some states, assisted suicide has been legalized or decriminalized for this very reason. According to a study in the American Journal of Preventive Medicine, the following health conditions were associated with a higher risk of suicide: asthma, back pain, brain injury, cancer, congestive heart failure, diabetes, epilepsy, HIV/AIDS, heart disease, high blood pressure, migraine, Parkinson's disease. Chronic pain can also bring on anxiety and depression, which can increase the risk of suicide. According to research, more than half of people living with chronic pain have significant depression and anxiety symptoms. Feeling like a burden to others. A person with chronic pain or a terminal illness can feel like a burden to others. They might worry that they are creating a hardship for people they love by asking for another ride to a medical appointment, more help with the household duties, or assistance paying for hospital bills. Feeling like a burden often shows up in some form of thinking, the world would be better without me. This type of rhetoric is one of the most common explanations for suicidal behavior according to the interpersonal theory of suicide. Social isolation. A person can become socially isolated for many reasons, including losing friends or a spouse, undergoing a separation or divorce, physical or mental illness, social anxiety, retirement, or due to a move to a new location. It can also be caused by internal factors such as low self-esteem. Social isolation can increase a person's suicidal thoughts and behaviors and is one of the top risk factors correlated with suicidal outcomes. Isolation socially can also lead to other suicide risk factors, including loneliness, depression, and alcohol or drug misuse. Cry for help. Sometimes people attempt suicide not so much because they really want to die, but because they simply don't know how to get help. Mimicking the act of suicide without an intent to kill yourself is referred to as parasuicide. In cases such as these, suicide attempts become a way to demonstrate to the world just how much they are hurting. Unfortunately, a person's cries for help sometimes prove to be fatal if they misjudge the lethality of their chosen method. People who make a failed attempt are also at a much higher risk of trying again, and their subsequent attempts are much more likely to be lethal. Accidental suicide. Some situations that appear to be suicide may actually be an accidental death. Risky viral trends like the choking game, also known as Passo Challenge, Flatliner, and Space Monkey, where teens strangle themselves to achieve a high-like sensation, and autoerotic asphyxiation are examples of suffocation suicides. Unintentional overdoses, firearm discharges, and poisonings can all lead to accidental suicide. A word from Very Well. You may never know why a person died by suicide. While it might have appeared that they had everything to live for, it might not have felt that way to them. If you are struggling with the loss of someone to suicide, a mental health professional can help. They can work with you to identify ways to get through your grief, which can help you move forward mentally and emotionally. So basically, guys, people feel depressed because of their thoughts. Your thoughts control your emotions. So if you're thinking negative thoughts, you're going to have negative emotions. Like if you're thinking negative thoughts about yourself, like, I don't like myself because of this, or I don't like this about myself or that about myself. Basically, you're rejecting yourself, right? When you, for whatever. Oh, I don't like my, the way my hair is, or I don't like my ears, or whatever. Just anything about yourself. If you, you're talking to yourself negatively about something about yourself, you're really just mentally rejecting yourself. So what you can do is learn to accept yourself. So if there are things about yourself that you don't like, you just learn to accept it, right? Like I've always been overweight most of my life, and when I was younger, I would feel sorry for myself, or I would, think negative thoughts about myself, and I didn't like the fact that I was overweight. But then, I just changed the way I think about it and myself. I just learned to accept myself for the way that I am. So instead of feeling sorry for myself because, I'm not perfect, or I don't have the perfect body, or, whatever. I just learned to accept myself for my strengths and my weaknesses, because, everybody has strengths and weaknesses. I have my strengths. I bench 425. That's a pretty good strength. And I have my weaknesses too. I'm not perfect, but I'm not trying to be perfect. Like I said, I accept myself for who I am. I've had times in the past when I was younger where I felt sad, or, I felt rejected or lonely or isolated, or, I felt sorry for myself. I think a lot of people out there, are trying to figure out life, and, it's easy to get sucked into a negative pattern of thinking, but, you have to be aware that your thoughts control your emotions. So you have to switch your thoughts to positive thinking. Now, I have a good book to recommend. Now, if you're thinking negative thoughts, or if you're having suicidal thoughts, here's a really good book for you to read. It's called Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor E. Frankl. And I'm not going to get into what the book is about, but if you want to read the book, you can search online, or maybe under this video, I'll pin the first comment with a link to the PDF version of that book for free. And just remember, you have to take life one day at a time. Sometimes when you're in your mind, you can start thinking about the past or the future, and, it's like you're living your life all in one moment in your mind. Every day is a new, fresh start when you wake up. Live life one day at a time, and don't worry about your whole life and all this stuff. Just worry about today. Don't worry. Don't be worrying about today. Just live your life today, and let today's problems just be today. And then tomorrow you can deal with tomorrow's problems, one day at a time. And guys, a lot of people, they probably they're afraid to go to a psychologist because they think there's a stigma around psychologists. But guys, when you go to a psychologist, all a psychologist is just somebody who talks to you. It's just a conversation, man. And it's somebody who's educated in the way people think, either positively or negatively. So, you go to this, forget the word psychologist. You just go to a person and talk to them, man, and they talk to you. That's all it is. You go to a person who's educated in emotions, and you have a conversation with them. You talk and they talk. You might fill out some paperwork and answer some questions, and then they'll get an idea of what you're thinking about and how you feel. And then you just talk about your feelings and your emotions and why you're feeling that way. And a lot of times, just talking about what's bothering you with somebody else and just getting it off your chest, just that alone will make you feel better. Instead of just having all these negative thoughts just bundled up in your mind, you get to share them with somebody who's an expert in emotions, and just the act of sharing makes you feel better. So one of the biggest things that makes people depressed is, like I said before, is they reject themselves. Like, they have negative feelings and thoughts about themselves. Like, they don't like themselves. They don't like certain characteristics about themselves for some reason. Either, physical characteristics or, some sort of mental characteristic. But like I said, nobody has to be perfect, guys. You don't have to be perfect. You have to accept yourself for the way you are. So it doesn't matter if you have, qualities about yourself that you think are not perfect, or, society thinks are not perfect. It doesn't matter what other people think of you. What's important is what you think of you. So self-acceptance, that's really part of maturing mentally. When people get older, they're more likely to accept themselves, and they accept their strengths and weaknesses. And plus, the future is uncertain. Let's say you're in a situation and it's like a negative, bad situation. Things can turn around. You don't know what the future holds, and things can get better. All kinds of things can happen. You can have a big revelation in the future, 6 months from now, or a year from now, that you can't see right now. You never know what's going to happen. Things can turn around. But the best thing to do if you're feeling depressed or sad or down is to go talk to a friend, or go talk to a psychologist, because, like I said, a psychologist is just a person who's an expert in emotions. Yeah, a psychologist is an expert in emotions and thinking and the thought process, and they'll help, make you have a better way of thinking about the world and other people and yourself. So yeah, guys, this is a serious topic, and, I don't want any of you out there to be hurting emotionally. So Just think positive thoughts, guys. And I mean, you can control your emotions, and the way you do it is by controlling your thoughts. And a good example of this is, say watching a comedy show. You're sitting there, say you go on YouTube, and you put on a comedy show, and then you start laughing, and that's, watching that comedy show would change your emotions. So that just goes to show you can purposely change your emotions. So, watching a good comedy show is good for that, or listening to uplifting music is good for that. Another thing I highly recommend, and I mean highly, I highly recommend anybody who's sort of feeling down or sad or depressed, go to the gym, man. I'm telling you, exercising and lifting weights or cardio or whatever, it always makes people feel better. It always makes me feel better. Yeah, for sure. I highly recommend going to the gym to anybody. If you're going through some sort of hard time and you're feeling down or depressed or sad, go to the gym, get on the treadmill, or go for a walk or a jog or whatever. Do something. Go for a bike ride. Do some sort of exercise. And do it every day. Turn it into a consistent habit. And you're going to feel a whole lot better after that exercise. Every single time I exercise, I always feel better when I leave. And a lot of that is you just get rid of all that excess energy in your body that's making you think too much. That's another thing that leads people to be depressed too, is, some people will they'll be sitting at home alone, and they just sit there thinking. All these thoughts are going through your head constantly. You sit there for hours just thinking about stuff, and so you can have all these negative. Just imagine all these negative thoughts going through your head for hours and hours and hours. Of course, you're going to feel bad or negative. If you have questions, guys, reach out. If you have a question about something, put it in the comments below. I'll give you an answer, and no matter what it is, you can. You can share a problem with me if you want to, and I'll give you my opinion, and I'll tell you, my best advice. Or, like I said, talk to a trained psychologist, or call the suicide prevention line. Help is available. Speak with someone today. 988 is the suicide crisis helpline. The languages are English and French. The phone hours are 24/7, and the text hours are 24/7. Guys, thanks for watching. And I just want you all to know that I love you and I care about you, and I want you to have a good life. Take it one day at a time, and, be happy. Think positive. I love you. If you or someone you know is thinking about suicide, call the Suicide Crisis Helpline at 988.